The word unlikely echoes differently when it's about your ability to have children. It bounces off sterile walls and settles somewhere between your heart and stomach, making both feel hollow. I'm Zella, and at 29, I thought I had my whole life mapped out. Interior design career taking off, married to my college sweetheart Wyatt, and a future that seemed as bright as the nursery colours I'd been secretly picking out in my head. "There are other options," Dr. Marshall said, her voice gentle but firm. The fluorescent lights made everything in her office look harsh and unforgiving. "IVF, surrogacy, but you're sure?" Wyatt interrupted, his hand squeezing mine so tight it hurt. "There's no chance, naturally." "The likelihood is extremely low," she replied, shuffling through my test results. "The damage to the fallopian tubes is extensive." I remember nodding, smiling even, like I was accepting an inconvenient lunch order rather than news that would shatter my world. Wyatt drove us home in silence, one hand on the wheel, the other still gripping mine like he could anchor me to our old reality. "We'll figure this out," he kept saying. "We're in this together." That night I called my best friend Jasmine. "I don't know how to tell my parents," I confessed, curled up in my home office while Wyatt showered. "Your mum's going to be a nightmare about it," Jasmine said bluntly. "You know how she is about grandchildren." She wasn't wrong. The next day I sat in my parents' pristine living room watching my mother Emery's face transform as I shared the news. Her perfectly maintained smile cracked at the edges. "But surely there must be something they can do," she pressed, looking at my father Leonard for support. "Medical science these days." "We're looking into options," I said firmly. "Your sister Sabrina just got engaged," my mother continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "She's always been so fertile, that one. Remember when—" "Mum," I cut her off, "I didn't come here for comparisons." The next few weeks were a blur of well-meaning advice and thinly veiled suggestions. My mother started sending me articles about miracle pregnancies. My father kept mentioning a cousin who'd adopted. Wyatt threw himself into research about fertility treatments, his browser history a testament to his desperation. But something felt off. Little things at first. Hushed phone calls that ended when I entered rooms. Weird glances between my sister and parents during Sunday dinners. Wyatt being oddly distant during conversations about our future. Then came the trust fund statement. I wasn't supposed to see it. It arrived at our old address and was forwarded by the new owners. A quarterly report showing recent activity in my grandmother's trust fund, which I couldn't access until I turned 35. Except there was activity. A pending transfer of $50,000 to my sister Sabrina's account. "There must be some mistake," I told Jasmine over coffee. "I can't touch that money for years." "Call the bank," she urged, eyes narrowing. "Something's not right here." "I did better than that." I made an appointment with Elise, a trust fund lawyer Jasmine recommended. The moment I walked into her office, my phone buzzed with a text from Sabrina. "We need to talk. It's important, about the future." My stomach lurched. The timing wasn't coincidental. "Ms. Carter," Elise said, extending her hand, "I've reviewed the documents you sent over. There are some irregularities we need to discuss." I glanced at my phone again. 3 missed calls from my mother, 2 from Wyatt. "Before we start," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "can you tell me if anyone else has been making inquiries about this trust?" Elise's expression shifted. "Yes, actually, your parents' lawyer contacted us last week about making an emergency exception for a medical procedure." "Medical procedure? Something about a surrogate arrangement," she replied, watching my face carefully. "The paperwork mentioned your sister's name." The room tilted sideways. My phone buzzed again. Wyatt this time. "Where are you? Your mum's been calling. We need to talk about something important." I knew then with crushing clarity exactly what they'd all been planning behind my back. The only question was how long they'd wait to tell me they'd decided to use my sister and my money to give my husband the child I couldn't. Miss Carter, Elise's voice seemed to come from far away. Are you all right? I wasn't, but I would be. Tell me everything, I said, setting my phone face down on her desk. Don't leave anything out. The drive home from Elise's office felt like navigating through fog. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. When I pulled into our driveway, Wyatt's car was already there. So was Sabrina's. I sat in my car for a long moment, watching them through our living room window. They were sitting on opposite ends of the couch, both looking tense. My mother paced between them, gesturing animatedly. My father stood by the fireplace, arms crossed. My phone buzzed again. Jasmine, did you find anything out? Call me. I took a deep breath and walked in. The conversation stopped dead. Honey, my mother rushed forward, arms outstretched. We've been trying to reach you all afternoon. I stepped back from her embrace. I know why. Sabrina stood up, wringing her hands. Zella, we wanted to tell you the right way. The right way? I laughed, the sound sharp and foreign. Is there a right way to tell someone you're planning to use their trust fund to pay their sister to carry their husband's baby? The silence that followed was deafening. It's not like that, my father finally said. We're trying to help. Help? I turned to Wyatt. Did you know about this? He couldn't meet my eyes. They approached me last week. I didn't say yes, but you didn't say no either, I finished. Think about it logically, my mother interjected. Sabrina's young, healthy. The genes would still be from our family. The baby would look like you... Stop, my voice cracked. Just stop. $50,000, I said, turning to Sabrina. That's what they offered you from my trust fund. My money to carry my husband's child. Sabrina at least had the decency to look ashamed. I thought I'd be helping. Helping? I pulled out the trust fund documents. By illegally accessing money that isn't yours, money grandmother left for me. Now wait a minute, my father stepped forward. We spoke to lawyers. There are provisions for medical necessities. This isn't a medical necessity, I cut him off. This is you trying to fix what you see as my failure. Because God forbid the Carter family line doesn't continue exactly as planned. You're being dramatic, my mother snapped. We're offering you a solution. A solution? I turned to Wyatt. Is that what you think this is? He stood up, reaching for me. Zella, please, we should at least discuss it. If there's a chance for us to have a baby. Us! I stepped back. There is no us anymore. The room went silent again. What do you mean? Wyatt's voice was small. I pulled out my phone and forwarded the email from Elise. Check your inbox. You'll find copies of everything. The illegal trust fund access attempts, the correspondence between our parents' lawyer and the bank, and the preliminary surrogacy agreement you apparently discussed with them last week. We were going to tell you, Sabrina whispered. When? I demanded. After you were already pregnant? After you'd spent my money? You're overreacting, my mother said sharply. This is about family. Family? I laughed again. Let me tell you about family. I just spent 2 hours with a lawyer who showed me how you've been trying to manipulate my trust fund for years. Did you think I wouldn't find out? I turned to leave, but Wyatt grabbed my arm. Where are you going? Don't touch me. I jerked away. I'm going somewhere none of you can reach me. And when I'm done, you'll wish you'd never come up with this little plan. Zella, please, Sabrina stepped forward. We can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. I reached into my bag and pulled out an old envelope. By the way, I found this in grandmother's belongings. It's a letter she wrote warning me about all of you. Looks like she knew exactly what kind of people you were. I dropped the envelope on the coffee table. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the trust fund violations. Don't try to find me. As I walked out, my mother called after me, You're making a mistake. Think about your future. I turned back one last time. My future started the moment I walked into that lawyer's office. And trust me, it doesn't include any of you. The door slammed behind me with a satisfying finality. In my car, I finally let the tears fall, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of determination, of freedom. My phone buzzed. Jasmine, my spare room is ready whenever you need it. I started the car and didn't look back. 2 years can feel like 2 minutes or 2 decades, depending on how you spend them. I spent mine becoming a ghost. You've got another email from Sabrina, Jasmine said, scrolling through my old account that she monitored for me. We were sitting in my new apartment, 3 hours from my old life. Want to hear this one? Let me guess, more fake apologies? Dear Zella, Jasmine read in a mocking tone. I know you probably hate me, but I miss my sister. The money wasn't worth losing you. Blah, blah, blah. I focused on unpacking boxes of art supplies. My therapy sessions had led me back to painting, something I'd abandoned years ago when interior design seemed more practical. Delete it, I said, like all the others. The divorce had been quick and quiet. Wyatt didn't contest anything, probably too ashamed after Elise's evidence came to light. My parents tried reaching out through mutual friends, but I'd cut those ties too. The only person I kept from my old life was Jasmine. The community centre called, I told her, changing the subject. They want me to teach an art therapy class. Look at you, turning your trauma into something beautiful. Jasmine grinned. Speaking of beautiful things, that guy from the food bank volunteering program keeps asking about you. Reuben, I felt my cheeks warm. He's just being friendly. Friendly doesn't bring homemade soup when you have a cold, Jasmine countered, or offer to help set up every single charity event you organise. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Elise's name flashed on the screen. Zella, she said when I answered, we need to talk. I've found something interesting in your parents' financial records. 20 minutes later, I sat in her office staring at documents spread across her desk. They didn't just try to access your trust fund for Sabrina, Elise explained. They've been siphoning small amounts for years, disguising them as administrative fees. It's clever, but illegal. How much? Nearly $100,000 over the past decade. She leaned forward. We can pursue this. The statute of limitations hasn't expired. I was about to respond when someone knocked on the office door. A tall figure appeared in the doorway. Reuben. Sorry to interrupt, he said, looking embarrassed. The receptionist said I could find you here. We need your sign-off on the mural project budget. Oh, right, I gathered my thoughts. Elise, this is Reuben. We work together at the community centre. Nice to meet you, Elise smiled knowingly. Zella, think about what I said. Justice doesn't have an expiration date. Outside, Reuben looked at me carefully. Everything okay? You seem shaken. Just family stuff. I tried to smile. Nothing new. Let me buy you coffee, he said. You look like you could use someone to talk to. At the cafe across the street, the words spilled out. The infertility diagnosis, the betrayal, the trust fund, all of it. Reuben listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker. They tried to use your own money to pay your sister to be your husband's surrogate. He shook his head. That's messed up, I supplied. I was going to say criminal, but messed up works too. He reached across the table, hesitated, then took my hand. You're incredibly strong, you know that. For the first time in 2 years, I didn't pull away from someone's touch. The lawyer found evidence they've been stealing from me for years, I said quietly. I could pursue legal action. What do you want to do? The question caught me off guard. Everyone else had always told me what I should do, what was best for the family, what was practical. I took a deep breath. I want them to face consequences, real ones. Reuben squeezed my hand. Then do it. I'll help however I can. Why? I asked. You barely know me. I know enough, he said simply. I know you turned your pain into community service. I know you help others heal through art. I know you're rebuilding yourself without becoming bitter. That's more than enough to know you deserve support. My phone buzzed. Another email notification, this time from my mother. Darling, we miss you. Your father's health isn't good. Please come home. I showed it to Reuben. They always try emotional manipulation when the regular kind doesn't work. What are you going to do? I thought about Elise's files, about the years of theft, about the way they tried to use my infertility against me, about how they nearly succeeded in destroying my marriage before I could see it wasn't worth saving. I'm going to call Elise, I said, straightening my spine. It's time to show them what real consequences look like. Reuben smiled. Want company while you make the call? For the first time in years, I felt truly seen. Yes, I said. I'd like that very much. Hold still, Reuben laughed, trying to wipe paint off my nose. You're making it worse. We were standing in what used to be an abandoned warehouse, now slowly transforming into an art therapy centre. My online documentation of renovation projects had gained a modest following, people inspired by the idea of turning broken things beautiful. It's your fault, I accused, dodging his attempt. You're the one who suggested spray painting the ceiling. And it looks amazing, he countered, finally catching me and successfully removing the blue smudge. His touch lingered on my face, and my heart did that familiar flutter it had been doing for months now. Hate to interrupt the cute moment, Jasmine called from the doorway, but your doctor's office called. They rescheduled your appointment to tomorrow morning. I'd been feeling off for weeks, tired, nauseous, emotional, probably stress from the legal proceedings against my family. Elise had built a solid case, and the preliminary hearing was approaching. I'll drive you, Reuben offered. I have the morning off anyway. The next day, I sat in Dr. Marshall's office, a different one from before, in my new town. She studied my test results with an unreadable expression. Well, she said finally, this is unexpected. My stomach dropped. What's wrong? She looked up, and to my surprise she was smiling. Nothing's wrong, Zella. You're pregnant. The words didn't compute. That's not possible. My previous doctor said... I'm looking at your hormone levels right now, she interrupted gently. You're about 8 weeks along. Sometimes, despite all medical predictions, these things happen. I sat there stunned as she continued talking about prenatal care and next steps. Reuben found me in the waiting room, still in a daze. Hey, he touched my shoulder. Everything okay? I looked at him, this man who'd helped me rebuild my life, who loved me without conditions or expectations. I'm pregnant. His eyes widened. Then slowly a smile spread across his face. Really? I nodded, tears forming. They said it was impossible, but... He pulled me into his arms, right there in the waiting room. Nothing's impossible with you, he whispered. You've proven that over and over. That evening, Jasmine brought over sparkling cider to celebrate. The universe has a sense of humour, she said, raising her glass. All that drama about surrogates and family lines, and here you are, pregnant naturally. Have you thought about what you'll do about your family? Reuben asked carefully. They'll find out eventually. I took a sip of cider. They don't get to be part of this. They lost that right when they tried to buy a baby with my stolen money. My phone pinged, a comment notification from my renovation blog. Someone using a throwaway account. Beautiful work. Does your family know about your success? I showed it to Jasmine and Reuben. Could be anyone, Jasmine said, but her expression was worried. Your blog's getting pretty popular. I'll have Elise add this to the harassment documentation, I said, taking a screenshot. Speaking of which, I need to tell her about the pregnancy. It might affect the timeline of the case. Reuben took my hand. Whatever you decide to do, I'm here. We all are. Later that night, lying in bed with Reuben's arm around me, his hand resting protectively on my still, flat stomach, I checked my email one last time. There was a message from an unknown sender with an attachment. It was a photo of me and Reuben at the doctor's office, taken through the waiting room window. Below it, A message. Congratulations. When were you planning to tell everyone? My hand shook as I showed Reuben. That's it, he said, sitting up. We're filing a police report first thing tomorrow. This is stalking. No, I said, something hardening inside me. This is them trying to regain control. But they don't get to control this narrative. I opened my laptop and began typing a new blog post. To my followers, I've been documenting the restoration of broken spaces, showing how damage can be transformed into something new and beautiful. Today, I'm ready to share my own restoration story. It begins with a family who tried to break me. Are you sure about this? Reuben asked softly. I nodded, continuing to type. They want to force their way back into my life? Fine. But this time, I'm telling the story. All of it. Let's see how they like having their actions exposed to the world. I love you, he said simply. I paused typing, looking at him. I love you too, and I'm not afraid anymore. I pressed post and closed the laptop. Let them come. This time, I was ready. The blog post went viral faster than I expected. Within days, my inbox was flooded with messages from people sharing similar stories of family betrayal and recovery. But the message that mattered most came from Elise. Your sister's been served, she announced during our emergency meeting. The financial fraud charges are just the beginning. We've added harassment and stalking to the list. I sat in her office, now visibly showing at 4 months pregnant, with Reuben beside me. How did she react? According to the process server, she burst into tears and called your parents immediately. Elise smiled grimly. They've been trying to reach me all morning. My phone buzzed. Jasmine, turn on Channel 7 News now. Elise grabbed her remote and flicked on the office TV. There was my father standing outside his company building, looking haggard. These allegations are completely false, he was saying to reporters. My daughter is emotionally unstable. We only ever tried to help her have a family. Elise muted it. This is good. He's panicking, making public statements without legal counsel. He's trying to paint me as crazy, I said, hand instinctively moving to my belly. Let him, Reuben squeezed my shoulder. Every word he says just proves your story. My phone lit up again, an unknown number. Hello? How dare you? Sabrina's voice cracked through the speaker. Do you know what you've done? I've lost my job. The bank is investigating me. Mum and Dad are falling apart. You should have thought about consequences before stealing from me, I cut in, or before agreeing to carry my husband's baby for money. I was trying to help, she screamed. Everything we did was to help you. No, I said calmly. Everything you did was to control me, and now you're facing the results of your choices. I'm your sister, she pleaded. Family is supposed to forgive. Family is supposed to love, I corrected. You never did that part right, so don't expect forgiveness. I hung up as Elise's assistant rushed in. You need to see this. Mrs. Carter is doing a live social media video. We huddled around Elise's computer. My mother's perfectly made-up face filled the screen, tears artfully streaming down her cheeks. My daughter has always struggled with reality, she was saying. When she couldn't have children, we offered alternatives. We only wanted to give her the family she desperately wanted. Now she's invented these horrible lies. Turn it off, I said quietly. I've seen enough. We can file for defamation, Elise offered. Every public statement they make just strengthens our case. No, I pulled out my phone. I have a better idea. I opened my blog and started a live video of my own. Hi everyone, I'm Zella, and you might have seen some interesting news about me today. I'd like to show you something. I turned the camera to the stack of documents on Elise's desk. These are bank records showing systematic theft from my trust fund. These are text messages planning to use my sister as a surrogate without my knowledge. And this, I touched my belly, is the baby they said I'd never have. The baby they tried to replace before it even existed. The comments started flooding in. I continued. My parents are currently trying to paint me as unstable, but documents don't lie. Neither do bank records or court summons or the dozens of witnesses who've come forward. Reuben moved into frame beside me, and she's not alone anymore. I ended the video and looked at Elise. How long until the preliminary hearing? 2 weeks, she checked her calendar. Their lawyer has been trying to negotiate a settlement. No deals, I said firmly. They wanted public attention. They've got it. Let's see how they handle the spotlight when they're the ones being exposed. My phone buzzed with a text from Wyatt. Please stop this. Your parents are right. You're taking this too far. I showed it to Reuben, who scowled. Want me to handle that? No need, I replied to the text. Funny how you find your voice now when you couldn't speak up to defend me then. Enjoy the show, Wyatt. You've got a supporting role. Elise gathered the documents. I'll file these with the court today. Once they're public record, there's no taking them back. Good, I stood up, Reuben's hand steady at my back. They spent years trying to control my narrative. Now they get to star in one they can't control at all. As we left Elise's office, my phone lit up with notifications. The video was spreading, comments pouring in, but I didn't need to read them. The truth was already out there, and for the first time in years, I felt completely free. Ready to go home? Reuben asked. I nodded, thinking of the nursery we'd started painting last weekend. More than ready, we've got a future to prepare for. No peeking! Jasmine guided me through the community centre's back entrance, her hands over my eyes. Almost there. At 7 months pregnant, I waddled more than walked, but I played along. When she removed her hands, I gasped. The art therapy space had been transformed into a beautiful baby shower venue, with fairy lights and artwork from my students decorating the walls. Surprise! A small group of close friends emerged from behind easels and supply cabinets. Reuben stood in the centre, beaming. You sneaks! I laughed, wiping away tears. Damn pregnancy hormones. I thought we were having a small dinner. This is small. Reuben kissed my cheek. Just the people who matter. The afternoon was perfect. We played ridiculous games, opened thoughtful gifts, and shared stories. My students had created a collective art piece for the baby's room, a massive canvas filled with messages of love and hope. Speech, someone called out as we finished the cake. I stood up, holding my sparkling cider. Thank you all for... The main door crashed open. My mother stood there, perfectly coiffed as always, with my father and Sabrina flanking her. Oh, darling, she trilled, striding forward with outstretched arms. We've been looking everywhere for you. Why didn't you tell us about our grandchild's shower? The room went silent. Reuben moved protectively closer to me. You weren't invited, Jasmine stepped forward, and you need to leave. Nonsense, my father boomed. We're family. Of course we should be here. Sabrina hung back, clutching gift bags, trying to smile. We brought presents. I felt oddly calm. Maybe it was because I'd been expecting something like this. Maybe it was because I was finally ready. Actually, I said, picking up the microphone we'd been using for games, since you're here, let's talk about family. Zella, my mother's smile tightened. This isn't the time. It's exactly the time, I cut her off. Everyone here knows my story. They know how you tried to buy a baby from my sister using money you stole from me. They know about the harassment, the stalking, the lies. That's not what happened, my father started, but I continued. You know what's funny? You were so obsessed with having a grandchild that you didn't care who you hurt. You didn't care about my feelings, my marriage, or my trust fund. You just wanted a baby to parade around your country club. I turned to Sabrina. And you, my own sister. How much was my happiness worth? $50,000? Was it worth losing your job over? Your reputation? She flinched. Zella, please. The court date is next week, I continued, but I wanted you to know something first. I rested my hand on my belly. This child, the one you're so desperate to claim, He's not your do-over. He's not your second chance. He's my miracle, my future, my family. You can't keep us from our grandchild, my mother snapped. We have rights. Actually, Elise's voice rang out as she stepped forward from the crowd. They don't. I filed the paperwork this morning. Once the criminal charges are settled, they won't be allowed within 100 yards of you or the baby. My father's face turned red. You ungrateful! Security's on their way. One of my students called out, phone in hand. Should be here in 2 minutes. My mother's perfect mask finally cracked. Everything we did was for you. We were trying to give you what you wanted. No, I said quietly. Everything you did was for yourselves. And now everyone knows it. Your friends, your colleagues, your precious social circle. They've all seen the evidence. How's that working out for you? Sabrina stepped forward, tears streaming. I never meant it wasn't supposed to be like this. But it is like this, I said. Actions have consequences. You're just finally facing yours. Security arrived, and my family was escorted out. As the door closed behind them, I heard my mother's last desperate cry. We're still your parents. No, I whispered, though they couldn't hear. You're just people who gave birth to me. My real family is right here. Reuben wrapped his arms around me from behind, his hands joining mine over our growing child. Jasmine appeared with a glass of water and a supportive smile. My students and friends gathered close, forming a protective circle. Well, Jasmine said brightly, nothing livens up a baby shower like some family drama. Who's ready for more games? The tension broke as everyone laughed. As the party resumed, I leaned back against Reuben. You okay? He murmured. I nodded, feeling our baby kick. Better than okay. I'm free. The rest of the afternoon was filled with joy, genuine love, and not a single forced smile in sight. This, I realized, was what real family felt like. The courthouse steps felt steeper than I remembered, even with Reuben's support. At 8 months pregnant, everything felt steeper. Ready? Elise asked, briefcase in hand. She'd spent weeks preparing for this day. More than ready, I said, straightening my maternity dress. Inside, my family's lawyer approached immediately. Miss Carter, my clients are willing to offer a very generous settlement. We can avoid all this unpleasantness. No deals, I cut him off. We're doing this properly. The courtroom was packed. My blog followers had spread the word, and the local press had picked up the story. I spotted Wyatt sitting behind my parents, looking uncomfortable. Sabrina sat separately with her own lawyer. As the judge entered, I felt the baby kick. Perfect timing, little one. The proceedings began with financial evidence. Bank statements, transfer records, and trust fund documents flashed across screens. My parents shifted uncomfortably as each transaction was detailed. And can you explain this message? Elise asked, displaying a text from my mother to Sabrina. Don't worry about the money. We'll handle Zella's trust fund. She doesn't need to know. Sabrina cracked first. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she burst out. Mum and Dad said they'd fix everything. They said Zella would thank us later. Order, the judge warned. My mother stood up. We were trying to preserve our family line. Zella couldn't have children. Mrs. Carter, the judge interrupted sharply, you'll have your turn to speak. Elise continued methodically presenting evidence. The surrogacy contract they'd drafted without my knowledge. The harassment after I left. The stalking photos from my doctor's appointments. Then came Wyatt's testimony. They approached me first, he admitted, not meeting my eyes. Said they had a solution, that using Sabrina as a surrogate would keep everything in the family. They promised to help with my business if I agreed. And did you agree? Elise pressed. I didn't say no, he looked down. I should have, but I didn't. My father took the stand next, trying to maintain his dignified facade. Everything we did was out of love. We wanted to give our daughter a child. By stealing from her, Elise interrupted, "by arranging for your other daughter to carry your son-in-law's child without your daughter's knowledge or consent. We were trying to help," he exploded. "And now look at her, pregnant anyway, turning the whole family against each other, airing our private matters in public." "Mr. Carter," the judge cut in, "please restrict your answers to the questions asked." Finally, it was my turn. I waddled to the stand, feeling my baby move as if encouraging me. "Zella," Elise began, "please tell the court what happened when you discovered the truth." I looked directly at my family. "I discovered that while I was grieving what I thought was my inability to have children, my parents were secretly arranging to use my trust fund, money my grandmother left specifically to me, to pay my sister to be a surrogate for my husband. They did this without my knowledge or consent. When I confronted them, they claimed it was for my own good." "And how did this affect you?" "I lost my marriage, my family, my home. I had to rebuild my entire life." I touched my belly. "But I did rebuild. I found real love, real support. And despite what doctors thought was impossible, I'm carrying my own child. A child that my family then tried to claim rights to after spending years trying to replace me as a mother." The judge's ruling was decisive. My parents were found guilty of financial fraud and ordered to repay every penny they'd taken plus damages. Sabrina received probation and a fine. The restraining order was approved. As we left the courthouse, reporters swarmed. "How does it feel to win?" one shouted. I paused, Reuben's arm steady around me. This wasn't about winning. This was about truth, about consequences, about showing that family isn't about blood or legacy. It's about love and respect. My mother's voice carried across the crowd. "Zella, please, we can still fix this." I turned to face them one last time. "No, you can't, but I did. I fixed myself, my life, my future. Without you." In the car, Reuben held my hand as Jasmine drove us home. "You did it," he said softly. "We did it," I corrected, placing his hand on my belly where our son was kicking. "All of us." My phone buzzed, comments flooding in on my latest blog post. "Final update. Justice served." But I didn't need to read them. The only story that mattered now was the one we were writing ourselves, and it was just beginning. "Push!" The doctor's voice seemed distant through my focus. "Almost there!" Reuben gripped my hand, whispering encouragement. Jasmine stood at my other side, wiping my forehead with a cool cloth. One more push, and suddenly the room filled with a powerful cry. My son announced his arrival with all the strength I'd fought to give him. "He's perfect," the doctor smiled, placing him on my chest. "Congratulations." I looked down at his tiny face, overcome with emotion. He had Reuben's dark curls and my green eyes. He was everything they said I'd never have. "Hello, Leo," I whispered, touching his tiny hand as he wrapped it around my finger. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through the hospital window, Jasmine burst in, waving her phone. "Have you seen this?" She showed me a local news article. "Prominent business executive steps down amid scandal." My father's resignation letter cited personal reasons, but the article mentioned the recent court case. "There's more," Jasmine scrolled. "Your mother's charity board asked her to resign, and Wyatt's PR firm lost 3 major clients after the court transcripts went public." "Karma doesn't just knock," I said, cradling Leo. "Sometimes it arrives in a courtroom." A soft knock interrupted us. Elise stood in the doorway holding a thick envelope and a stuffed lion. "Sorry to interrupt," she smiled, "but I thought you'd want to see this right away. Your grandmother's trust fund has been fully restored, with interest. And," she pulled out another document, I found something interesting in her original will." I adjusted Leo in my arms as she continued. "There was a clause none of us noticed before. If any beneficiary attempted to access the trust fund fraudulently, their own inheritance would be redirected to the victim of the fraud." "Meaning?" "Meaning your parents and Sabrina just lost their inheritances. Everything goes to you and Leo now." I looked down at my son, peaceful and unaware of the poetic justice unfolding around him. I don't need their money. No, Reuben said, taking my free hand, but Leo's college fund just got a nice boost. Another knock. A nurse entered with a clipboard. Sorry, but there's someone insisting on seeing you, says she's your sister. No visitors outside the approved list, Reuben said firmly, but I hesitated. Wait, let me talk to her, just for a minute. Sabrina entered alone, looking smaller than I remembered, her eyes fixed on Leo. He's beautiful, she whispered. Why are you here? She wrung her hands. I sold the house Mom and Dad bought me, paid back my part of what we took from you. She swallowed hard. I started therapy, trying to understand why I always did whatever they wanted, even when I knew it was wrong. Good for you, I said, not unkindly, but that doesn't change what happened. I know. She moved closer, cautiously. I just wanted to say, you were right, about everything, about them, about family, about love. I see it now, watching you with your son. That's real. What our parents did, that was control. Leo stirred, making tiny noises. Sabrina stepped back. I won't ask to be in his life, she said quietly. I don't deserve that, but I wanted you to know I understand now, and I'm sorry, really sorry. As she turned to leave, I called out, Sabrina, she paused. Thank you for the apology. I hope therapy helps you build a better life, one that's truly yours. After she left, Reuben kissed my forehead. You're amazing, you know that. She's not forgiven, I clarified, but maybe she's finally learning. Jasmine returned with coffee and news that my parents had tried to get past hospital security. They were escorted out. Apparently they were ranting about family rights and grandparents' privileges. They still don't get it, I said, watching Leo grasp Reuben's finger. Family isn't about rights or privileges, it's about love, choice, and respect. Speaking of family, Reuben knelt beside the bed, pulling something from his pocket. I was going to wait, but this feels right. He opened a small box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. Marry me, make our family official. It already is, I smiled, tears flowing. But yes, absolutely yes. Leo chose that moment to cry, demanding attention. As I fed him, surrounded by the people who'd stood by me through everything, I felt complete. Not because I'd won against my parents, not because karma had settled scores, but because I'd built something real and true from the ashes of what they'd tried to destroy. Ready to go home? Reuben asked softly. Home. To our house, our life, our future. To the family we'd chosen and created. Yes, I said, holding our son close. We're ready.